Hi, Shelly.
Hi, Fraser. We're back, right? Back again.
Yep. Part 2.
Back. Part 2. Chapters 4 and 5.
Yeah, woo.
Woo. Okay. Any revisions to your summary of Demian and what it's about?
Not what it's about, I think. I definitely like the character less now, but in an interesting way.
You like the character? Wait. There's like 4 characters.
Oh, the main guy, Sinclair.
Okay, Sinclair. Isn't it? Yeah, Emil Sinclair. Yeah, but they call him Sinclair, which is a cool name. I'm here for it. Yeah,
I think that's the name of the bad guy in the Rocketeer as well. So I'm kind of like double here for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How about you? Did you change what it's about?
I still think it's a coming of age story about a young man who is looking back in time and still grappling with what happened, recontextualizing what happened to him as a kid. But it seems like it's progressed beyond that. And it feels like he's being less reflective now. And it's changed direction. It seems like it's turning more into some sort of spiritual metaphor more than deconstructing what his childhood meant to him, which the very beginning kind of felt like that, even though it was dabbling in the realms of theology and spirituality and duality in some ways.
Yeah, this portion surprised me when it moved forward in time so much, even though ostensibly it didn't. It just felt like it did because he hit puberty and started acting very differently. And now it must feel like a different time period for you, right? Because generally I would think like 12 or 13-year-olds aren't in the pub all the time. I was like, oh, he's 18. And then he was like, oh yeah, it was a crazy summer. I'm like, what?
Oh yeah,
what happened to Oliver Twist?
you thought it was more like set in the Oliver Twist days, and I was like, it's set in 1980. See, the weird thing is that I'm still thinking it's 1980.
But he's just going into pubs. It's like Ireland or something.
Yeah. No, like we're in a different country that is Eurocentric. But I've told you that in my mind, I've already cast them as a K-pop band. So they're a K-pop band living in Eurocentric country.
Yeah,
I know.
At least when the story graph asks you if it's a diverse set of characters, you'd be like, oh yes, very much so. Koreans in Europe. I think we're in Germany sometime in the 80s. It's a wild ride.
But I'm being serious. It does still feel, when he's talking, when he's describing things, even though there is no modern references, like I reached the telephone or I called my mom or anything like that, I think that there is nothing in the language that dates it. And so even though he's walking into a pub, I'm sort of like, well, in my mind, in my imagination, I'm like, surely there is a country that lets 13-year-olds drink.
Yeah. And he's getting bombed too. Like he's just giving it. I'm just like, wow, okay. I personally was not blacking out when I was 13. But okay.
I'm not saying that was my childhood either. But...
No, I'm judging Sinclair.
Oh yeah. I'm totally judging Sinclair too. I was thinking, I'm not judging his actions. I'm actually kind of judging the way that he's interpreting his actions.
Oh, okay.
So I feel like, he was getting drunk and sort of bombing out at the age of 12. But I was like, there's a part of me that's like there's an understanding part of me that's like, that's such an exploratory age. And I think that there is a lot of complexity with, your identity at this time. And he could be exploring that. But then he was like, I lost all my weight and I'm like a shell of my former self. And I'm like, oh, you're being real hard on yourself right now.
Yeah, he went through it. That's for sure. And then I like how he recuperates through, again, like a subversive of the genre way where it's like he just essentially decides to, he was just like, and it's over now.
Oh yeah.
Rather than the overt influences of the parents again, right? He was just like, I didn't even care that it aligned with the headmaster goal, my parents' goals. this was a byproduct of my changing my mind and nothing more.
Right. Yeah. He took a lot of ownership over that change. And in a lot of ways, he's dabbling with the story of the prodigal son and, you know, going wayward and then coming back and seeing if your family still loves you. But it feels like he's taking it a step beyond, and that he's like toying around with this idea. So it's so strange because he was like, I did come back, but I didn't come back for you. It was all me. It was all because I
Yeah.
didn't want to live this way anymore.
Speaking of which, I really actually enjoyed the characterization of Beatrice, like his construction of good within himself vis-a-vis the image of this woman that he loved, but he's old and or maybe not old enough, but he's
Well,
wise
wait a
enough.
second.
Hmm?
Beatrice is his love interest.
Yes.
Beatrice is his love. Beatrice
Well,
is his love interest, kind of. He sees an image
yeah.
of her, and he thinks that he loves her, and then he becomes obsessed with like replicating her image,
Yeah, and
and
I
that
th- I thought that was like far more than adolescence to understand that his idea of her wasn't her, because most of the time in adolescence you're always projecting things, right? You're like, oh, a girl should be this way, and you just sort of assume that people will act a certain way, whereas he immediately knew that what he had in his mind and what he was internalizing had more or less nothing to do with her. It was like how she made him feel by looking at her made him a better person because he worked at internalizing that notion through his art. And so I was just like, damn,
right.
he's simultaneously like really an odd child because he's getting drunk and then he pulls himself out of it with art. And I'm just like, in my head I'm always like, oh, he's an 18-year-old college student or something, you know, but then something will happen and be like, no, he's 13 or whatever, and I'm just like, you know, these times is different.
Well, because for you, he's in Oliver Twist times.
Exactly.
For me, I'm like, he's in the 1980s. I mean, regardless, he is quite astute. And in some ways, in this modernist period in France, this is in Germany, but it wasn't Proust a modernist writer?
I think so.
Proust.
Proust.
And he did a thing where he was very aware. There was like this awareness, and I wonder if this was going on during the time period, but there was like this awareness that your obsession with a thing has less to do with the thing and more about yourself and what the thing is doing for you. And it seems like he was very aware that Beatrice was a representation of something that he wanted. And then interestingly, as he was drawing her, it was like his subconscious was coming out through those drawings. And then it wasn't about Beatrice at all. And, you know, and then it ended up being about the art, which was a very strange transformation. Transformation is the theme in the book, I think.
Yeah. But you were right in that it still tracks very theological as it's continuing. That hasn't changed, even though he personally has changed quite a bit. And I was interested by that because initially I was like, oh, the theological thing is gonna go away for a while because he's, you know, drunk at a pub and stuff. But then, you know, I mean, not immediately, but with how fast things happen in this book, it felt quite quick that that transformation did occur. And yeah, so I was wondering what you thought about that, like particularly about Beatrice and his relationship to her, and the art. How did, yeah, like how did that make you think of him and change your outlook on him, if at
I
all?
think I was surprised that I thought perhaps that, so the direction I thought Beatrice was going, which was more of a surprise, and then I just observed, I guess. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought that he was going to like develop some sort of crush on her, actually kind of like the idiot, you know, but he was
Yeah.
going to develop a crush on Beatrice and then sort of have feelings that he would have to grapple with another person. But then immediately it's like he had feelings for somebody else, and then it did something subversive that I wasn't expecting, and it was all about her image. And then it wasn't even about her image, it was about creating the image that he saw in his mind. and then it ended up being about Demian, and then the image also kind of looked like him. And so I was like, oh, so I thought it was going to be like sort of a puppy love interest, and then it ended up being something way sort of like off the rails that I didn't expect at all. And so I was surprised because the book itself seems to be presenting something that is very universal, but then takes it into a direction that I didn't expect. And that seems to be going on over and over again.
Yeah, it's really difficult to extrapolate what will happen. Although I am throughout
Right.
kind of like, I'm less sure than I usually am with these stories, but it seems like there's queer themes getting wound into it. But I still am like unsure what the authorial intent is regarding them, despite them coming up. Like the androgynous sort of Beatrice painting becoming more and more like
Yeah,
Demian and stuff.
I noticed that as well, because he was saying that he liked her boyish features and he liked her slender body. And then when he was painting her, she ended up transforming into a him. So I do feel like there is an undertone of sexuality, or of speaking on gender even, but it's not overt. It's super subtle. But I don't know if it's going to go anywhere because we don't have that much of the book left.
Yeah. Who knows though, man? Like after that chapter 4, I'm just like the jump in time and all of this stuff happening. I really, it's fun to read because I generally have no idea where it's gonna go, because it's just been so subversive so far that I'm just like, I don't know. But I'll maybe the most interesting thing to me currently is that particular theme being introduced more predominantly and where it may go. And then secondarily, probably the theological aspects of him sort of internally grappling with this good faith thing. And I'm really interested in the notion of his goodness and his internal struggle both coming from it within and not the externalized forces, like is so typical with these stories and what you'd expect.
Right.
Like his interactions with Demian do seem to foster the bad thing or whatever in him.
Right.
Yet it's still all internal anyway, and not
Right.
like blame or whatever being placed on Demian, even from him in the future, which makes it very unpredictable. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm not sure where it's going to go. I think I'm wishing for what I wish on every character, which is like some sort of like peace within himself, like being okay with having superpowers or becoming a bird, you know. I mean, like I want him to like not feel so conflicted, and right now it's like all of it is conflict, all of it is muddled and fraught, it feels, and in that he doesn't know how to think about himself. And I kind of hope that at the end he has some sort of like peace with what's going on, but that's what I wish for every character.
Yeah. I wonder if it'll be like some sort of strange marriage between him finding like a masculine and feminine coexisting within him or
Identity, yeah.
something. That's what I was sort of vibing with the portrait that he was obsessed with. But I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so in our next video, I know we're going to talk about the last third. Is there anything that you're expecting or hoping to get out of this last third, or anything that you want it to go? Do you want the plot to pick up?
Well, it's quite quick, so I'm not having issues there at all. But I think that I would like to have some sort of statement from the author at this point, where I'm just like, as long as I can get sort of the capital P point across of what he was trying to say, that would be nice, because currently I'm kind of like all over the place where I'm like, what is he doing? What's happening?
Right.
What is the point? So as long as it nails that, which might be difficult at this point, that will be excellent for me.
Right. Yeah.
How about you?
Um Yeah, I'm wondering now that you've said what you've said, I'm like, I actually wonder if he's not gonna have a point and it was just about
Oh.
exploring an idea. And then but I actually wonder if we are going to arrive like for if we're going to get some sort of transformation, because right now I feel like we're in the thick of the fraughtness and I'm ready for like the coming of like the, I'm coming like like I'm coming up.
Yeah. I wonder.
So, like, as a person, like, he's okay. He's transformed. He feels good. He comes back to, he's like, again, sort of like at peace with everything that's going on.
Yeah, his Sound of Music on the Hills.
Yeah. Yeah. The hills are alive right there.
Yeah. I wonder too if like there is some cultural things that we are missing. Because did you read the introduction by Mon?
No.
Yeah, me neither. Because I was like, those things tend to give away far too
Yes.
much. They're like heavy-handed. So I'll read it after. But I do
Right.
wonder if
You get
there's
like the
like,
analysis of the book right
yeah,
before you read it, and you're like,
yeah,
oh.
yeah. Congratulations on understanding this should be an afterword.
Right.
But so I wonder if there is sort of more cultural roots. Like I was saying, where in the beginning it felt folkloric. I wonder if Demian is a proxy of something. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a proxy for something at the time that it was written, or a couple years before that was happening in German culture or something. And that's a thing that I'll be looking at
Yeah, I'm
afterwards.
definitely going to Wikipedia
Intertextuality.
that
Yeah,
afterwards.
yeah,
I'm like
exactly.
on here, what's going on? What happened? What did I miss? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is
Yeah.
Hermann okay?
Does he ever get himself out of the hole? Because that's where I feel like we're in. We're just like digging a hole. I'm like, oh, I feel bad for y'all. Okay, see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Shelly. Bye.
Bye.